Good afternoon, dear students. This is Mr. Abdurrahman again with another session designated for GCSE level of business studies subject. Today's topic we'll talk about the scale of production, how large firms different from small firms regarding the cost of production, how a big company, how it means to reduce the cost for a large company while it will not be obtainable by small firms. So in this session, we will discuss that. Imagine with me this before we dive into the concepts that we have some company company A. Company A is making a or producing, let's say, uh, annual output that is equal to a value of 10 of, let's say, I don't know, 10 million for an example, 10 million units. This firm making that much amount every year, producing 10 million units, and it costs them, it costs the company A, which is considered a little bit larger, it will cost them per unit, cost of one unit, cost per unit, you will say, for an example, it will cost 40 cents, and this is another company B that producing an annual output of 1 million units. When you try to scale that, we talk about how to scale it. And this company, the cost per unit for this company, relatively speaking, is a little bit higher, like 70 cent per unit. The thing is that when you scale that up from 1 million to 10 million, you will notice that the company be spending more as a cost for producing the units. The reason for that, guys, because this company is considered larger. When I say larger, I'm talking about the idea of having more money, better equipment, that kind of things. Why they are able to do that? Why the company be able to reduce the average cost of producing the units? Because they benefit from something called economies of scale, which is today's topic that we're gonna discuss. So first, we'll talk about the economies of scale. Mainly, there is 5 economies of scale to talk about. There's 5 of them. Economies of scale is, as a definition, we'll set as a definition first, any factors that enable firms to reduce average uh, cost as they get larger, as a firm increase in size or expand. This is the definition. of economies of scale. uh, the economies of scale, there is mainly five of them. We'll talk about each one of them. I'm gonna write it here. So the economies of scale divide into mainly, there is five of them. First, we'll talk about the first type, or the first economies of scale style. It's called the purchasing economies. Purchasing economies is the idea that the large firms able to provide themselves with more raw materials uh, in a larger quantity. They're able to uh, buy uh, raw materials in bulks. When they buy it in bulks, they are able to get a discount from the supplier for buying such a huge amount of money. When they are buying the raw material for a cheaper price, they are able to uh, reduce the average cost of production uh, directly. And this is considered an advantage for larger firms over small ones because they cannot do that. Small firms cannot do the same thing. The second economy of scale that we will mention is the second one is going to be the marketing economies. Marketing Marketing economy is talking about the idea that the company or the firm able to do marketing with less cost. When I say less cost, I'm talking about the idea of uh, uh, the large companies will be able to distribute uh, their product using own vehicles. When they do that, when they have their own cars, it means that they don't need other firms to distribute the product. So they are able to reduce the average cost of the production process by distributing with such a method. Beside that, they are able to lower the advertising, lower the advertising in TV or in large companies, able to reduce the advertising cost uh, proportionally speaking compared to the small firms. Beside that, also they can hire large companies. They will hire less sales sales staff. Why they are doing that? Because they have money, and when they have money, they will hire skilled people. They will hire 10 sales staff compared to a small company that will hire 20. These 10 people will be very skilled. So just to explain it, so they're able to hire less sales staff. When you summarize all of these factors, distribute with such method uh, such factors on advertising and such hiring strategy, they are able to benefit from something called marketing economies. Now let's jump to the third factor. We'll take it step by step here. Number three, there is something called financial economies. Financial economies referring to the idea that these companies or large firms, they have uh, large access. I'm gonna do it. They will access uh, large access to finance. It means that they can ask for loans from from banks more swiftly. What's the meaning of that? Most of the banks, they prefer to lend money for uh, large firms because it's less risky. So large firms able to gain a benefit from financial economies due to that they will access more finance just because they are big and large and famous, and the banks will have trust to lend them money because it is less risky than lending money to small firms. Beside that, when the companies do that, actually, they will also benefit from lower interest rates. It means that these large firms, these large firms will benefit from lower interest rate because they are asking to be lend huge amount of money. They will ask for millions. They will not ask for a few thousands or 10,000s. They will be able to gain a lower interest rate compared to the small companies. Let's talk about the fourth economy of scale, number four. We'll talk about the technological, or let's first talk about the managerial economies. It's called managerial economies. Managerial economies talking about the concept of uh, has uh, they have advantage over small companies. When I say that a large company has a benefit from managerial economies, we're talking about the idea that they can afford to pay to hire high expensive staff. So I'm gonna describe it here. The managerial economies talking about the idea uh, ability to hire specialists. When I say specialists, like uh, genius managers or hiring IT tech. Uh, uh, these specialists, they will cost money. Small firms cannot pay for such unique staff or specialized staff. You would say that, okay, Mister, since they cost money to hire, how the firm this is considered as a benefit for managerial economy. When you hire such specialized staff, guys, it means that the production of the company. It means that these firms will produce more efficiently. the basic idea. Uh, Specialized people will enable you uh, to become more efficient as a business. When your production become or the business production becomes more efficient, it means that the average cost is reduced, you know, because when you are hiring skilled people, this will prevent mistakes and problems regarding production, which is considered as a production waste. But when you are hiring specialists, this will prevent you less likely to make the production process cost. This is why it's actually when you're hiring specialists, it's considered as a benefit from managerial economies and will enable you to produce more effectively and efficiently. The last economy of scale is something called technological economies or technical economies. Technical economies. Economies. If, talking about the idea that large companies able to access uh, machinery for the production process, they can access uh, more likely to use machinery for production. When we talk about machinery, we're talking about using the slow production style. Such management will lead to the fact that these firms will lower the cost as time passes because they're using machines, and depending on the production style called uh, flow production. Uh, Most of the time, when companies using this or large companies, they will be able to reduce the cost. These machines expensive at the beginning, but as the production process starting to proceed, they will gain a decrease in the average cost of each unit. Small companies cannot do that, guys, because they cannot afford to buy these expensive machinery. Another advantage considered as technical economies, these firms will make labor more specialized. Remember when we talked about specialization? Most of the firms, large firms, will benefit from that. When we talk about specialization, it means that each worker will station at different part of the factory. Workers of part C will not come near B or A. Each labor will stick to their stationary, and this is enable the production process to be more accurate. When you are using specialized people, the efficiency of production will increase. This is why the technical economy is considered as an advantage, and it will lead to a reduce in the cost as time passes for large firms. Small companies cannot do that because of many things, because small companies sometimes they don't need large machines. Large firms tend to produce high quantities because sometimes they are selling even internationally, but small firms they will work locally and they need to produce small amount of units. This is why they cannot compete or cannot benefit from that. So all of these considered as our main economies of scale. Purchasing economies, number one. This is the first type of economies scale factor that enable the firms to reduce the production. Number two, the marketing economies. Number three, the financial economies. Managerial economies, number four. And number five, the technical economies. That's it about the economies of scale. Before summarizing uh, this topic, I'll just uh, before summarizing this session, we need to talk about the opposite side of the coin. There's something beside the economies of scale. There's something referred to as diseconomics of scale. Diseconomics of scale is another um, part or another different thing. We'll talk about it. As there is economics of scale, there is something called, let me change the color here. Diseconomies of scale. Diseconomies of scale, talking about the disadvantage of being large company. It might sound weird that saying, Mr. How large companies can face problems. They can face problems as any business, and these factors that may lead to that called these economies of scale. These economies of scale is also factors that uh, cause average cost to increase as business expand. This is the definition of these economies of scale. So this economies of scale is something damaging for, and most of the time, practically it might not happen, but there is a high chance that it will happen. From our and you will as I explain it, you will notice that it might happen. Number one, why such large company might face increase in the average. Number one, poor communication. You will say poor communication. As these big companies becoming larger, it will be hard for their managers to communicate in an efficient way. So this will be caused of many things. It might be caused by um, in accurate messages. Um, Besides sending the incorrect, inaccurate messages, it might be slow. We'll talk about slow communication later. Besides inaccurate messages, uh, these inaccurate messages will lead to mistakes, and these mistakes will affect the production and will cost money for these mistakes, as you logically know that. And as these mistakes happen, it will increase, or sorry, reduce efficiency business, and by as a result, it will increase average cost. This is how the poor communication affect the large companies. Beside that, guys, the second diseconomies of scale. Sorry, the telephone is ringing. The second diseconomies of scale is gonna be the talk about the low morale, low morale, morale. Talking about the idea of uh, workers becoming less motivated. Why workers will be less motivated, guys? Because there is less communication from a higher rank, and this low motivation making the workers think that uh, think they are less important, and due to that uh, the efficiency as a result, it will drop. Uh, of course, this is not a problem in the small firms because small firms most of the time they keep uh, small firms keep good relations with its workers. Large firms cannot will not be able to that most of the time. That's why some large firms divide divide themselves into small branches to be able to avoid that kind of this effect. Okay. As I said, as the workers becoming less motivated, this will lead to less production due to the fact of the drop of efficiency. Number three, the third factor, or the third diseconomies of scale, which is going to be here, is beside the idea of poor communication is which is the problem of managers. As the business becoming larger, slow decision making by managers. Managers will be very slow making decisions because these managers unable to reach groups and workers, unable to reach workers as they get larger, and it will lead to slow slow process of taking the commands because the decisions are not uh, delivered to the lower layers. Uh, Sometimes these top managers will be busy with some affairs and will lead to neglecting customers, customers' relation, and these customers will be unhappy, and when they are unhappy, it will affect the cost eventually. Losing customers, that means a drop in the business efficiency, which lead as a direct way to the idea of increase or affecting the cost or the average cost of a business. Um, this is about the diseconomics of scale. We talked about economics of scale, and we talked about the diseconomics of scale. Um, just before ending this session, we will make sure that we summarize it into direct points. As I said, there is economies of scale factors, and there is this economies scale factors as well. This economies of scale will be factors of reducing average cost, while the diseconomies of scale will be factors of increasing average cost. Uh, These factors, as we mentioned, of the economies of scale will be 5 of them. Number 1, purchasing economies. Number 2, marketing economies. Number 3, financial economies. And number 4, managerial economies. And lastly, as economies of scale and technical economies. These are the factors that might lead considered as a factor of economies of scale. As for this economies of scale, there is 3 of them, as mentioned. Poor communication, number 2, low morale, number 3, slow decision making. I hope this session was beneficial for you, and I will see you in next videos, dear students. That's it for today. So I want to thank you. See you in other videos. Be safe, and catch you later on Viber, inshallah. Bye bye for now.